I became the prisoner in North Korea for 140 days. It was March 17th, 2009. My team and I were making a documentary about North Korean refugees living below human life in China. We were at the border. It was our last day of filming. Suddenly, one of my team members shouted, "Soldiers!" So I looked back, and there were two small soldiers in green uniform with rifles chasing after us. We all ran as fast as we could. I prayed that please don't let them shoot my head. In a flash, we were surrounded by these two Korean soldiers. They were not much bigger than us, but they were determined to take us to their army base. I begged and yelled for any kind of help, hoping that someone would show up from China. Here I was, being stubborn, towards a trained soldier with a gun. I looked at his eyes. He was just a boy. At that moment, he raised his rifle to hit me. But I saw that he was hesitating. His eyes were shaken, and his rifle was still up in the air. So I shouted at him, okay, I'll walk with you. And I got up. When we arrived at their army base, my head was spinning with these worst-case scenarios, and my colleague's statement wasn't helping. She said, "We are the enemy." She was right. We were the enemy. And I was supposed to be frightened too. But I kept having these odd experiences. This time, an officer brought me his coat to keep me warm. Because I lost my coat on the frozen river while battling with this one of soldiers. I will tell you what I mean by this odd experience. I grew up in South Korea. To us, North Korea was always the enemy, even before I was born. South and North have been under armistice since end of the Korean War. And grew up in South in the 80s and 90s, we were taught propaganda about North Korea. I watched this cartoon series about young South Korean boy defeating this fat, big, red pig, which represented the North Koreans' first leader at the time. And I think at some point I dehumanized them. And the people of North Korea became equated with the North Korean government. Now back to my detention. It was second day of being in a cell. I had not slept since I was out at the border. This young guard came to my cell and offered me this small boiled egg and said, "This will give you strength to keep going." Do you know what it is like receiving a small kindness in enemy's hand? Whenever they were kind to me, I thought the worst case was waiting for me after the kindness. Every day was like a psychological battle. The interrogator had me sit at a table 6 days a week and had me writing down about my journey, my work over and over until I wrote down the confession that they wanted here. About 3 months of detention, the North Korean court sentenced me to 12 years in a labor camp. So I was just sitting in my room to be transferred. At the time, I really had nothing else to do, so I paid attention to these two female guards. Guard A was older, and she studied English. She seemed like she came from an affluent family. She often showed up with these colorful dresses and then loved to show off. And guard B was younger one, and she was a really good singer. She loved to sing the Celine Dion's "My Heart Will Go On." Sometimes too much. She just knew how to torture me without knowing. One day, they invited all these female colleagues, I don't know where they came from, to where I was held. And they invited me to their guard's room and asked, if one-night stands really happen in the US. This is the country where young couples are not even allowed to hold hands in public. I had no idea where they got this information. But they were shy and giggling even before I said anything. I think we all forgot that I was their prisoner. And it was like going back to my high school classroom again. And I learned that these girls also grew up watching a similar cartoon, but just propaganda towards South Korea and the US. If these girls grew up learning that we are enemies, it was just natural that they would hate us just as I fear them. But at that moment, we were just all girls who shared the same interest beyond our ideologies that separate us. I shared these stories with my boss at Current TV at the time, after I came home. His first reaction was, Euna, have you heard Stockholm Syndrome? Yes. And I clearly remember the feeling of fear, being threatened, and tension rising up between me and the interrogator when we talked about politics. There definitely was a wall that we couldn't climb over. But we were able to see each other as human beings when we talked about family, everyday life, the importance of a future of our children. It was about a month before I came home, I got really sick. Guard B stopped by my room to say goodbye because she was leaving the detention center. She made sure that no one watches us, no one hears us, and quietly said, I hope you get better and go back to your family soon. It is these people, the officer who brought me his coat, the guard who offered me a boiled egg, these female guards who asked me about dating life in the US. They are the ones that I remember of the North Korea, humans just like us. North Koreans and I were not ambassadors of our countries, but I believe that we were representing the human race. Now I'm back home, back to my life. The memory of these people has blurred as time has passed. And I'm in this place where I realized how easy it is to see them as an enemy again. But I have to keep reminding myself that when I was over there, I was able to see humanity over hatred in my enemy's eyes.